highlight a year. Like, you tell me something good, all year I'm going to be like, the Bucks won the Super Bowl.
Amen. I mean, and just, you know, having somebody come in that's done it before, like 6 times, was enough to have everybody else believe that it was possible too. I mean, that's pretty cool. What a difference between Winston and Brady. You know, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. But yeah, it's great. It's great to experience that. I thought I was going to get nervous in the second half because he got a little nervous in the Green Bay game, you know, but there wasn't even any call for alarm at all. They had it completely under control, which is kind of surprising.
You know, as that relates to real estate, though, it says a lot about leadership, right?
Amen.
And leading a team.
Yeah, amen. I mean, Brady's only focused on possibility and execution, you know, and on the desired result. He doesn't want to hear anything else. It's always moving toward that direction, not away from it. And that's really powerful.
That was what stood out for me, was his leadership, you know, in contrast with the other guy, Mahoney, who didn't have as much experience. Like, you could just see, like, and there was no stress there. It was just like he knew it was going to happen. It was just like, how, right?
Right.
I love it.
But you know, the thing is, from the beginning, he was attracting people to the team that wanted to work with him, that wanted to go for it again. Bringing Gronk out of retirement, you know, and other quality people that just wouldn't have come to the Bucks if he wasn't with the Bucks, first of all. And then second, it's believing, even going through adversity and believing we can do this. We can do this, and continuing to affirm it and move in that direction, and not taking anything that would deter them, not listening to the noise, not letting the noise prevent them from moving forward. We all deal with this, maybe not to that level, but we deal with this every day in our own lives. You have a little noise that you deal with every once in a while?
Yes.
Yeah, right. So how do you get past the noise and believe in what's possible instead of you know, letting things rain on your parade, right? We'll talk a little bit about that today too. Great, good, that's great. Bucks win. What else? Tell me something good.
The weather's been beautiful.
I'm sorry?
I said the weather's been beautiful. It's
Oh
not
yeah, that is great. Right, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. It's coming up.
A listing hit the market at 675,000, very, very top end of the market for that neighborhood, and got an amazing offer in less than 24 hours.
That's exciting.
Full price. Yep.
The high end is cooking. Everything is cooking, but the month supply is so low in the higher end that luxury market is really, really taking off too. So that's a good thing. You still have a little bit more of it's still a seller's market, but it's less of a seller's market in the higher end, like it always is. So you might have a better chance at gathering some inventory in the higher end right now than previously, which is a good thing. So what else? Tell me something good.
I have a closing today that a listing I put on the market, kind of like what she was just saying, at the very top end. It was like, I told my sellers, don't get excited about this price, you know, just let's see what happens.
Right.
It's 500,000. I listed at 500,000, 13 offers. It closes today at 550.
Wow. Congratulations. That's pretty strong. So what does that tell you about our market? I mean,
well, the other thing I want to say about that too, Gary, is that he had interviewed 5 agents and all of them were like around 475. You'll be lucky if you get 475, you know. So I was not really super confident about my price, but I just thought, you know, 475, 500, you might as well just go for it. Right. So it was really cool and then I had to meet the appraiser and smooth the appraiser and like do all this stuff. But yeah, it ended up closing at 550. So it was really a good real estate win, like a good example for me to see my own experience, how it came into play and actually won me that listing.
Well, congratulations, because there's a lot of people that were right on price. Well, they were wrong on price, but they thought they were right on price by looking at evidence, and they used that to help the seller price the property, and that was a mistake because it limited the opportunity that the seller had. So we are in uncharted territory right now. So flexibility in pricing needs to be there in a lot of cases. It's about winning the listing and letting the market decide how high it will go. That makes sense? Has anybody lost listings because of price? the past little bit? Right. Right. Well, I mean, yeah, in the last couple of months, I mean, we are in a seller's market that we've never been in before. So what does that mean? That means that sellers have their way right now. So that we need to have more flexibility with inventory being at lower levels every month. Sellers are in the driver's seats, and pricing. You can learn lessons like that. I'm proud of you, Jackie, that you had an open mind to be able to let that happen and represent our clients to the best of our ability. We can tell the sellers what the backs are, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be limited by that, depending on location and circumstances in the market. Does that make sense? 675, right, Katrina? I mean, and it went quickly.
Florida, it's interesting. We just looked at the stats because they came out yesterday.
Mhm.
We talked about it on Tampa Home Talk. They released the fourth quarter stats for Florida realtors. We always look at that, but we keep our own numbers too because it's just not real-time data in this market. It's so delayed. But it reported a 1.1 month absorption rate, but we know we're under that number. We know we are.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's competition is fierce for buyers. It's about, on the buyer side, it's about finding them a house. On the seller side, it's how high can it go? And then deal with the appraiser if you have to deal with that later. And you might have to, because, you know, like I said, we're in uncharted territory before. And if you always use history to justify price and value, how can values ever go up? Because history is going to limit the possibilities of growth. Does that make sense? So that's why appraisers, you know, they have to go by their requirements, but still this market is a crazy market. You know, we'll get to that.
I did get a really horrible appraisal. I don't really complain a lot, but this one's so bad I might complain to the state because the appraiser used all comps over a 1 mile radius, which they're not supposed to do on USPAP guidelines. And I found better comps that were closer that he completely disregarded, a lot of them in the same neighborhood, and it totally destroyed our value. So I don't know, there's that too. You get a lot of appraisers that are just scared because they are held to a really high level of accountability.
Right, they are. It's tough. It's a tough racket right now. It's a tough business right now. But you know, what can you do when you have that problem? You don't want to be, you want to present your case. Maybe have the buyer talk to a different lender, see if they'll consider a different appraisal depending on the situation, right? What else? Tell me something good. Come on, there's more good than that.
The amount of pre-approvals that we're doing here at Van Dyke Mortgage are unbelievable, which means soon all those buyers are going to be coming to you, the buyer's agents. So
that's great news. That's great news. So you're getting the pre-approvals from agents in the market center, correct?
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Great, great. So that's more pendings coming, more closings coming. Exciting.
Exactly what that means. If we can find some inventory for them.
Yes. How's your TBD program? Are they all going through the TBD program?
Well, right now that's suspended just because our underwriters are so busy underwriting live files. So that's on the back burner at least until the middle of March.
Right. How are refis right now? Are they still going bananas?
Not as much as what they were. Probably 30% of the pipeline is refi. The other 70% is purchase.
Are those numbers you want?
I mean, we want the buyers. I mean, you know, that's our bread and butter, and always has been and always will be.
Awesome. Good stuff. Anybody else? Anything to share? Anything you want to celebrate besides what we've talked about already, or anything that you've learned in the last 30 days that you think would be helpful to other people? Any ahas you've had?
Especially for people that is starting like me in the business. Hi to everyone. I am a guest today, but I wanted to start as soon as possible.
Wonderful. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Enjoy the mastermind.
Welcome.
I love it.
Great. What else? No ahas?
This is Mike.
Mike?
Yeah. I just want to do a shout out to the Norton agents that just joined. They're putting in the time.
Can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry.
Put it in the chat, Mike, if you're having trouble with that.
Ask me.
We'd love to read it at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Shout out.
Okay. Let's start with the materials. Let's just jump right in.
All right, here we go.
How to create magic with those around you. Interested in that?
Yes.
Good, thank you. I hope so, because that's what I got for you. By Jim Rohn, one of my favorites. What is good lifestyle? Really, it's style over amount. So what's style? It's an art, the art of living. You can't buy style with money, and you can't buy good taste with money. You can only buy more with money. Lifestyle is culture, the appreciation of good music, dance, art, sculpture, literature, plays, and living well. It's a taste for the fine, the unique, and the beautiful. A respectable lifestyle should also involve rewarding excellence whenever you find it by not taking the small things for granted. And with Valentine's Day fast approaching, I wanted to illustrate this with one of my favorite personal anecdotes. Many years ago, my friend and I were on a trip to Carmel, California, for some shopping and exploring. On the way, we stopped at a service station, and as soon as we parked our car in front of the pumps, a young man about 18 or 19 came bouncing out to the car and with a big smile asked, "Can I help you?" "Yes," I answered, "a full tank of gas, please." Mind you, this was when gas stations had both full and self-serve pumps. Still, I wasn't prepared for what followed. This young man checked every tire, washed every window, even the sunroof, singing and whistling the whole time. We couldn't believe the quality of service and his upbeat attitude. When he brought the bill, I said, "Hey, you're really taking good care of us. I appreciate that. I really enjoy working," he said. "It's fun for me, and I get to meet nice people like you. This kid was really something." We're on our way to Carmel, and we want to get some milkshakes, I told him. "Can you tell us where we can find the nearest Baskin Robbins?" "It's just a few blocks away," he said, giving us the directions. Then he added, "Don't park out front, park around the side so your car won't get sideswiped." What a kid. At the ice cream shop, we ordered milkshake, hers, mine, and a third one. We drove back to the station. Our young friend dashed out to greet us. "Hey, I see you got your milkshakes." "Yes, and this one is for you." His mouth fell open. "For me?" "Sure, with the fantastic service you gave us, I couldn't leave you out of the milkshake deal." Wow, he was simply astonished. As we drove off, I could see him in the rearview mirror, just standing there, grinning from ear to ear. Now, what did this little act of generosity cost me? Only about $2. You see, it's not the money, it's the style. I must have been feeling especially creative that day because upon our arrival in Carmel, I drove straight to a flower shop. As we walked inside, I said to the florist, "I'd like to buy one long-stemmed rose." The florist, a rather unromantic type, replied, "We sell them by the dozen." "I don't need a dozen," I said, "just one, please." Well, he replied haughtily, "It cost you $2. "Wonderful," I exclaimed. "There's nothing worse than a cheap rose." Selecting the rose with some deliberation, I handed it to my friend. She was so impressed, and the cost, just $2. Later that day, she looked up and said, "Jim, I must be the only woman in Carmel today carrying a rose." And I believe she probably was. Can you imagine the opportunity to create magic with those around you? And all for the cost of a few dollars, some imagination and attention. Remember, it's not the amount that matters, but the thought and care that often has the greatest impact on those you love. Any thoughts? Any ahas?
I love it. It just shows how the simplest things can make somebody's day.
Yeah, yeah. How can you make, I call them wow moments. They call create magic. How can you create magic in your business?
Finding out how to put a smile on somebody's face by maybe reaching out and seeing if they're okay, if there's something wrong with their family, making sure that their family's okay on a consistent basis.
Yeah, care calls are wow moments. Care calls when they least expect them, right?
I have a buyer that she had just broken up with her boyfriend. We closed on her house maybe 2 months ago, and I knew she was alone, so I had gone on to her social media, and I got a picture of her and her kids in the new house, and I had taken a picture of her, And then I literally went to the Walmart website and I took the 2 pictures and put it on a Happiness is Home or something, and a Valentine's Day card. And she gave me a call crying.
Yeah.
And it cost me $1.76 plus my
There you go.
stamp.
There you go. It's those magic moments that impact people in a positive way and create relationships for life. No question about it. You're right, Deb. It's about coming from contribution all the way and finding different ways to go above and beyond. You know, that road on the extra mile isn't very populated. You know, there's not a lot of people on that road to the extra mile. So, I mean, but what are some other ways you can wow people with systematic wows? I mean, what are things you can do every day to wow people? Handwritten personal notes. You read my mind, Katrina. Right on the money. That's it. Handwritten personal notes. They have such a big impact. Might not feel like it while you're doing it sometimes, but it does. May not impact everybody at the same time, the same way, but it definitely has positive, powerful impacts, no question. Contacting them after you've been paid. Sending, treat them as if you want, sending pre-listing packages before listing appointments, or buyer, doing something before you even meet them, doing something after you've already been paid. Little things you can add to your system to make a difference. Anybody else?
Our moving day survival kits, and they are so well received. They cost us probably about $50 with everything, like the container and the stuff we put inside, but we put everything that they're going to need when they are in the middle of a move, and just as people have told us stuff, we've added things over the years, but like we make sure there's toilet paper and paper towels and coffee and toothbrushes and water and cleaning supplies and just everything that they need, because their whole life is packed in a box.
Awesome. That's great stuff. Awesome. Good stuff. Okay, next. How to keep yourself encouraged. Another Jim Rohn. Here's a familiar scenario for all of us. You have an exciting goal in mind. You've done your homework. You think you're all amply prepared, and things just don't work out. You probably had times when you thought you're going to do what you were supposed to do, but you were misinformed. You thought you had it all planned out and it just didn't work. You burned the midnight oil day after day and it didn't help. You couldn't seem to change the end result. These are times when you have to be your own best cheerleader. There are 2 ways to keep yourself encouraged. Number 1, take responsibility for the missed opportunity or the misrepresentation. Learn from the fact that though you made the best presentation possible, your client wanted it a different way. Be prepared for the letdowns that happen every so often. Know that this lost opportunity just sets you up to take advantage of the next one. Realize that you can make the necessary alterations next time. Make the changes that will make the difference. Study your mistakes and learn from them. Instead of dwelling on your mistakes, simply acknowledge them. Remind yourself that you're smarter than your bank account leads you to believe. 2, remind yourself that you're bound to get better. Don't get down on yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Does anybody have a tendency to do that? Or is it just me?
It's me, for sure. I'll admit it.
Okay. It's the next opportunity that matters, not the last one. The last one matters only in that you must what? Learn from it. But the next one gives you the opportunity to show that you have learned from your mistakes. You can do it better next time. You just have to practice. Keep trying until you've got it down pat. If you figured out what went wrong last time, then you know how to make it right next time. If you figured out what it was in your presentation that didn't work, don't say those same words next time. If you figured out that reason you didn't close the deal this time was because you didn't have all the facts and figures in place, have all the facts and figures in place next time. Don't beat yourself up for messing up. Pat yourself on the back for figuring it out. You need to encourage yourself. You need to pump yourself up. You need to be your own cheerleader. Why? Because you can't wait and hope that someone else will come along and cheer you up. You have to rely on yourself. You have to have faith in yourself and your ability to figure out what works and what doesn't. You need to encourage yourself. You need to pump yourself up. You'll have to encourage yourself with future successes. When you miss an opportunity, are unprepared for an opportunity or suffer a setback while realizing your goals, you need to encourage yourself by immediately getting back into line. There's an old cowboy saying that goes, fall off a horse 7 times and you're a real cowboy. If you fall off a horse, get right back on. If you fall off track, get right back on. If you fall away from your disciplines, get right back to them. If you fall out of habit, get right back into it. It might be hard, it might be a bit frightening, but get back on the horse. Keep your resolve alive, active, and well. Cheer yourself on to victory. Any thoughts on that, guys?
Yeah, sometimes we just need to give ourselves credit for even trying in the first place.
The best thing you can do is just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
Get back up quick. Mistakes are meant to be learning opportunities, not to be things that cause you to not get back up. Okay. There's books written about it. John Maxwell's Failing Forward is an excellent book. That's right, Katrina. Failure is growth.
I think it's also too so true what you focus on expands. If you focus on that mistake or that failure, or you just get stuck and you can't move forward. So it's like, I have one right now. I just lost a buyer yesterday of something stupid I did. And even though I apologized and everything, she just stopped talking to me. So I woke up this morning like with that sick feeling in my stomach, like, ugh. But the more I focus on that, the more I can't serve all my other clients or move on to what's next. So
that's exactly right. It's best to just learn from it, make adjustments, like you said, Deb, quickly, and then move forward. But if you start blaming other people, they're going to miss the opportunity to get the lesson, and then the lesson gets more painful the next time. Okay. So when something doesn't happen and you don't get the result that you want, the question to ask yourself is, why is this happening for me? Not why is this happening to me? And what can I learn from this so that I can prevent this from happening again and move forward. Okay. Anybody else?
Some of the best deals you'll ever do are the ones you walk away from.
That's right. Well, yeah. I mean, you can bless people and send them off, and move them on, because some people just are tough to please. Let's put it that way. And you can't please everybody. So if you're a perfectionist and you want to make everybody like you, you're vulnerable to being hurt. And you can't take things personally in this business, because it's more about them and their response to change than it is about you and the quality of your service, in my experience. Okay. So some people are just better referred to someone else. Okay. But that's why we lead generate, right? We lead generate so we have options and possibilities and choices, because we get to choose who we want to be married to. Okay, because when you sign an agreement, well, more in the old days, when you sign a listing agreement, it was like a 6-month situation. Now it's a couple days, right? But buyers are that way now, right? If you let them. Okay. The thing is each market brings its own opportunities. But the thing is your mindset is key, and any noise that slows you down or stops you it's not worthy of it. Okay. Nothing is worthy of stopping you or slowing you down. There's people out there that need your help, that want your help, no matter what that other person did or said, or no matter how bad your mistake was. Make a mistake, apologize for it. If that's pretty revealing when someone is not forgiving. When someone won't accept an apology, it's very revealing to me. Okay. That might not be somebody that you can service. Okay. Because it's more about control and you losing and them winning than it is about win-win, right? So that's why we lead generate. So we have options and choices and freedom of who we want to do business with. Okay, good stuff. Next. Okay, this kind of fits in too, huh? Why should you stop worrying about the things you can't control? Because the more concerned we become over the things we can't control, the less we'll do with the things we can control. You can't control somebody else's feelings or whether they're going to accept your apology. You can't control whether someone that decided to hire you or someone else. You can't control what Zillow does. You can only control what you desire and what you want and how you want to live your life and how you want to build your real estate practice and fund that magnificent life. So when Coach Wooden, John Wooden, was asked what one of the most important things his father taught him, he replied, never try to be better than somebody else. Always understand that you'll never know a thing that you don't learn from someone else, but never cease trying to be the best you can be. I can remember my father saying, that's under your control. The other isn't. You can't control being number one in the country, number one in the market center, number one in the region. You can only control what, because you don't know what they're going to do, anybody else. All you can control is what you're going to do. And if you get too engrossed, involved, and concerned in regard to the things that you have no control over, it will have a negative effect on the things over which you have or should have control. Scroll down a little bit further. The philosophy controlled how Coach dealt with the past as reflected in this key idea. A mistake is valuable if you do 4 things with it. Powerful. A mistake is valuable if you do 4 things with it. Recognize it, admit it, learn from it, and forget it. For Coach Wooden, the past was not something to worry about, but rather to learn from and move on. This philosophy also controlled how Coach dealt with the present as reflected in this key idea. Do not permit what you cannot do to interfere with what you can do. Coach liked to say, we change what we can, but if we get too concerned, involved, and engrossed in circumstances over which we have no control or can't change, those circumstances are going to have a negative impact on events and outcomes we can control. And this philosophy controlled how Coach dealt with the future. In his book with Steve Jameson, The Essential Wood and the Lifetime of Lessons on Leaders and Leadership, Coach commented on the difference between worry and concern. This was a pretty powerful aha for me too. Worry is fretting about the future. Concern is figuring out future solutions. When you're concerned, you're going to analyze and determine where and how to improve. If you're worried, you're just fretting that things won't turn out right, regardless of what you do, wringing your hands and imagining bad things. Concern leads to results. Worry results in losing a good night's sleep. For the past, the present, and the future, don't worry about things you can't control. Act on those that you can. Any thoughts? You agree?
Yeah, like concern, it requires some action versus worry, which is just leaves you stuck.
Yep.
So the only thing that moves you forward is action.
It reminds me of the accountable victim chart. You know, the victim gets lost in the problem and makes it a drunk gorilla, right? While the accountable person focused on the solution and moving towards solving the issue, right? So yes, exactly. What else? Anybody else?
And I think worry clouds your mind with stress too when you can't make good decisions throughout the day.
Right.
So,
it causes panic attacks. It causes you to freeze, causes you to believe that you don't have any, no matter what you do or what you think, you can't have any impact in resolving the situation. You kind of get a hopeless feeling. Okay.
yeah, the self-doubt, I agree with 100%.
Right. So what's going to lead to possibilities? It's always focused on the possibility, not the problem. Right. What else? Anybody else? All right, let's move on, Tamara. Ready for some good news? Is right now the right time to sell? What's always the answer to this question? Yes.
Yes.
But especially now. It's unbelievable. Sky high demand, low supply, and fierce buyer competition. Let's look at the numbers. 47.2%, up 47.2% home showings compared to last year. Inventory of houses for sale down 43% compared to last year. Bidding wars, 3+ offers received on average. Wow. If that isn't an argument to be able to sell for those people that are interested in selling, I don't know what is. If you're on the fence about selling your house, now's a great time to take advantage of those things. Yeah. Well, those are national numbers, Katrina, probably not local numbers, right? With buyer demand rising and historically low inventory for sale, if you're in position to move, your house may stand out from the crowd. One of the reasons I like this KCM blog is because it sells the benefits to buyers and sellers of acting now, and it also sells the benefits of consulting with you as agents. It's agent friendly. Okay, next. Want to build wealth? Buy a home this year. And this is mostly addressing buying instead of renting, okay? And the financial advantages, many of you know already, but what you might not know is that when you include the equity benefit of price appreciation, owning makes more financial sense than renting in 48 out of the top 50 markets, with the exception of being in California, San Francisco, and San Jose. That means that it's less expensive and better financially to own than it is to rent, okay? And in 2020, home sellers nationwide realized a home price gain of 68.8 on a typical sale, the highest level in the US since at least 2005. So next, what are they predicting? 7 major home price appreciation forecasts for 2021. Pretty strong. Prices are still going up. Demand is stronger than ever. Scroll down a little bit further. The NAR just reported that today the median priced home in the country sells for $309,800. If homes appreciate by 5% this year, the average of all the forecasts, the homeowner will increase their wealth by 15.4. And at the top of the page, it said that the average homeowner gained $17,000 in equity just last year alone. So that buyer that was on the fence last year, and if they're on the fence this year, how much equity opportunity have they missed out on?
Over 30,000.
Right, exactly. That's the downside of people waiting on the fence. Although I don't know why they'd be waiting anymore with interest rates as low as they are. I don't know that that's a problem. But if it is, you certainly have enough data to help them understand what they're saying no to by not getting into owning property. Or accumulating investment property, the same thing. Interest rates are so low that properties will cash flow. Okay, next page. Tamara, you're the best. I appreciate you, honey. What record low housing inventory means for you. Again, these are national numbers. They say it's a 1.9 month supply throughout the country, according to NAR. We're much lower than that. But look at it graphically.
Gary, is there any, I mean, I know I have a lot of guesses as to why the inventory is so low, but is there any explanations or something specific to why the inventory is so much lower than last year?
I wish I knew the answer to that question. I don't know. I mean, there are more buyers than sellers, that's for sure.
But are there more buyers than there were last year? I guess there are probably because of the interest rates.
Yeah, buyers. Yeah, I mean, it's just an unbelievable time to both buy and sell. That's the unique thing about this market. Why is it unique?
If you've never looked at the Florida Realtor stat, I'll do a screenshot and show you how to get to it. That's included with your membership. There's some incredible information in there. I mean, it's pages of data, and I'm not a data nerd, but I actually love the information in there.
Well, that's great. You can put it in the chat.
Thank you.
The URL, the website. That'd be great. But yeah, I mean, houses are being absorbed faster than we can put houses on the market. I think builders have been afraid because of how they got messed up a number of years ago to really start satisfying I mean, most of the time builders are building on spec, right? And some of our, Pinellas County, there's not a lot of places left to build, but now they're finding every little corner they can find to pop up some different things. But knowing what the new construction is available is is I think one of the solutions, and builders are, because builders are overcoming that now. But you see, interest rate, and it's basically free money. You know, interest rates are so low that it doesn't make sense for builders not to have inventory homes out there. But yeah, it's definitely why it is, I don't know. But all I can share with you is what it is, and the benefits to the buyers of being able to take action now, and the sellers to take action now. For buyers, you know, even though prices have gone up 10%, with interest rates dropping 1% and where they are now, it's less expensive on a monthly basis than it is, than it was with prices 10% lower. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Affordability is still very strong. So they give buyers advice and they give sellers advice based on this information. And you guys can read that. You already know these strategies. You definitely want your buyer pre-approved. If you're going to be competing with cash buyers and you're in a price range where you're going to be competing with cash buyers, the Van Dyke TBD program, the to be determined program is a winner, because it's really the only way you can legitimately compete with the cash buyer, because all the underwriting is done, all the verifications are done. The only thing that has to pass is the house appraisal and inspection. Am I right there, Kurt?
Sorry about that. I was trying to get it off mute. Yes, that is correct.
Yeah. So everything is, it's different than saying your buyer's approved. And if you need Kurt or Brian or anybody from Van Dyke to talk to the co-op agent that has the listing for your buyer to explain in more detail what that is, if they don't understand it, by all means, they'll be happy to give that other agent a call to help them understand that the buyer is as good as gold, just the house has to pass inspection and appraisal, right? So that's powerful. So yeah. Now, this is interesting. It says, to their credit, on the next page, Sam, to their credit, home builders and construction companies have increased efforts to build, with housing starts hitting an annual rate of near 1.7 million in December, with more focus on single family homes. However, it will take vigorous new home construction in 21 and 22 to adequately furnish the market to properly meet the demand. Okay. Now, what are things that could impact this seller's market? What's one thing that would have the most dramatic impact on the seller's market and can flip it to a balanced market?
Interest rates go up.
Amen. We had it 3 years ago. At the end of the year, interest rates went up to 5%. Inventory started to accrue. It started to accumulate. Got higher. You guys were complaining about how long it was taking to sell houses. What's going on? Well, buyers said enough. I'm not going to deal with prices going up crazy, and I'm not going to deal with interest rates going up crazy at the same time. Something's got to give. So what's happened over the last couple of years is interest rates have gone down and down and down. Inventory's gone down and down and down, because buyer demand is up and up and up. What I don't understand is, how can we sell more houses every year with less houses coming on the market?
Because we're getting more than our fair share.
Well, it's amazing. I mean, what's happening is we're selling houses that aren't listed. Now, if you're a seller, realize that in some ways you're in the driver's seat. Well, they are in the driver's seat. I just said at the beginning of the meeting, and you just validated it with your stories, that process are selling for more than the market is indicating they should sell for. That's that's market demand that's driving those prices up. So you can be right on price and have someone else get paid a commission. So I'm saying, stay in curiosity when you're on listing appointments. Don't lose over price unless it's absolutely ridiculous and there's no possible way it can happen. Okay, but help them understand that the market's going to let them know fairly quickly whether they're in line with their price or not. Don't just take it price. Just don't accept it at a higher price and not educate them on what the symptoms are of a property that's overpriced. And what are the symptoms of a property that's overpriced? Traffic and no offers, or no traffic, right? According to the National Association of Realtors, you know you're at the right price when you get, after 8 offers, you get an offer. If you don't get an offer after 8 showings, then there's something wrong price-wise or presentation-wise. So the seller is in the best position to negotiate terms, and buyers need to understand that going out there. Okay, that's what our consultations with them have to be, is that when you explain the market to them and help them understand, that's why you want to do a consultation. So you're preparing them for what is to come. Don't you want to deal with educated buyers and sellers? And the data will verify behavior that should happen. But if you don't teach them what the data is telling them and prepare them for what is to come, and even do a consultation, because some people don't even do consultations with buyers, then they're going to think you're speaking to them with commission breath when you're asking them to make an offer now, because if they wait a day, they're going to lose it, very possibly. Does that make sense?
The other thing that I'm seeing, I mean, a little over 50% of the people that I talk to are coming down from out of state.
Yeah.
I mean, there's over 1,000 people that are moving to Florida every day. So even if the rates go up a little bit,
yeah,
I think that there's still going to be a potential, you know, a lot of buyers coming down here to Florida.
Yeah, they're coming down because we're open.
Plus, I guess if you're going to quarantine, it'd rather be in 80 degrees in your backyard than negative 20 stuck in a house.
And you can go outside and do stuff. You know, I mean, you can enjoy water, you can enjoy, you know, other things. You can eat in a restaurant. Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But yeah, I mean, education is the most important thing. We want to be our clients' trusted advisors. That's why we have to invest the time in educating them up front before you invest time showing them property, or, you know, I mean, you know this. I mean, you never take a listing without doing a consultation, right? So, and you work less time on a listing than you do with a buyer. So it doesn't make sense to not do a consultation with the buyer. Okay, next. The luxury market's attracting buyers. It's just all price ranges. You know, I mean, if you do the absorption rates on all price points, and with the data that we have, and you figure it out, you're going to see that all price points are the lowest month supply in our history in the 33 years that I've been in business. There it is, right there. Despite the devastating effects of the COVID-19 pandemic, the luxury real estate market has seen one of its strongest years since 2008. Scroll down a little further. Experts believe that demand for exclusive residential properties outside metro areas will continue well into 2021. Even with the introduction of vaccines, the pandemic is far from over. For those who have moved to the suburbs and beyond, moving back to the city full-time is unlikely while the work from home trend remains. Many of these affluent homeowners are now making their secondary properties their primary residences for the foreseeable future. I mean, even you know, Sylvester Stallone, I hear, bought a $35 million property in Palm Beach. He got to get out of California too. He put his $130 million property for sale up in California, but he's in Florida now. I mean, at least he can go out to dinner. Interesting, markets where new supply is improving the fastest tend to be higher priced than those that have yet to see improvement, suggesting sellers are more active in the more expensive markets. Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be a luxury agent if you dabble in that field. What goes around comes around. Things that go up come down. So make hay while the sun shines. Take advantage of it. Next. This I find amazing to me. You know, a lot of times, you know, we think that it's obvious that, you know, you don't have to have a 20% down payment to buy a home, right? But the number of people that don't know that is amazing to me. You know, and sometimes sharing the obvious can create opportunities. You know, just sharing this with people that you know are renters, or people in your database, you know, can be impactful. You know, basically what this is saying is that, you know, the median down payment is less than 20%. First-time home buyers is 7%. If you scroll down to the graph a little bit, 12% for all home buyers and 16% for repeat home buyers. So don't let down payment myths keep you from hitting your home ownership goals. If you're hoping to buy a home this year, let's connect and review your options. Great stuff to send to your database. Okay, next. You guys can look this over. Benefits of home ownership, pride of ownership, civic participation, net worth. Look at that. The median household net worth of all homeowners is 254.9, while the median net worth of renters is only 62.70. That's huge. Financial security, house-related spending, entrepreneurship. Those are some of the benefits of home ownership. And the last article before we get to the data. 3 reasons we're not in a housing bubble. Why do you guys think we're not in a housing bubble?
Real money, real buyers, real approvals, real cash.
There you go. It's real.
Real equity.
Yes. That's the big one, right? Real equity. Also, housing supply is extremely limited. Back in 2006 and 2008, inventory increased from just over 5 months to 11 months. The month supply was over 7 months. In 27 of those 36 months, yet home values continued to rise. Now supply and demand is less than 2, and in our market, it's about 1, and less than that in some price points. This time, housing demand is real. It's not manufactured by making anybody that can fog a mirror be reapprovable for a mortgage. And this time, households have plenty of equity. This blew my mind when I read this. If we combine the very last paragraph in red, if we combine the 38% of homes that are owned free and clear, so 38% of homes are owned free and clear. That's the first thing that's pretty powerful. With the 18.7% of all homes that have at least 50% equity. We realize that 56.7% of all homes in this country have a minimum of 50% equity. That's significantly better than the equity situation in 2008. Unbelievable, huh? Pretty powerful stuff. So this is nothing like 2008. So Katrina, you said you mentioned that in your book. That's awesome. That's great. So you've used that data to help your clients get off the fence, right? And the time value of money, exactly. Exactly.
Hey, Gary, how much did you pay for your first house?
$30,000.
That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's probably still worth 31. No, it was a little house in Holiday. You don't want to know how we got the down payment.
Okay, how much did you make what'd you sell it for? Do you know? You bought it for 30.
I sold it about 10 years later. I wish I still had it actually.
We always wish we still had it, but what'd you sell it for? I know it was more than 30.
I think it was about 42.
Okay, still the time value of money.
Yeah, but we bought one in Lake St. George for $51,000. Still have it. It's probably worth 150, 160 right now. So yeah, it's amazing. You know, we had one in Rustic Oaks, which we sold for 98. We bought it for 89, sold it for 98, and probably worth 200 right now or more. You know, it's kind of amazing. So yes, real estate is like what Kiyosaki says. I don't buy real estate to sell it. I buy it to keep and accumulate. I'm not a seller. I'm a buyer. Yeah, anybody ever not hear of Robert Kiyosaki? Brilliant. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrant. Great books to read and devour. Good stuff. So any ahas today so far? Any thoughts? Any questions?
It's a really good board game too. We play with our son, Cash Flow.
Cash Flow, it's great.
Yeah, it's a great board game. Anybody who likes that, it's right from Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
I bought it, I have it, and we've never played it.
It's awesome. It'll replace Monopoly for you, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I personally don't like Monopoly. I'm like, this feels too much like work.
Any questions, any thoughts, any ahas? You ready for some data? Okay, let's get to the data. Pinellas County REOs. The incredible shrinking inventory, right? Even with REOs and short sales, especially. In December, we had 17 actives. Now we have 12. We have 11 that sold, and the absorption rate was 91.7%. The month supply for REOs in Pinellas was a 1.1 month supply, down from a 2.1 month supply in December. Now, for people that are new, that haven't been to Mastermind before, according to NAR, a 0 to 5 month supply of inventory is considered a seller's market. A 5 to 7 month supply is considered a balanced market or a normal market. And a 7 month supply or greater is considered a buyer's market. So the lower the supply, the less choices buyers have, the more in the driver's seat sellers are as far as negotiation, right? The more supply, the more options the buyers have, the more sellers have to compete with each other, and the more the buyers are in the enviable negotiating position. Does that make sense? Now, the closer to 0 the number is, the more extreme of a seller's market it is, and we're there now. We've never been this low on the totem pole, right? And the higher the number, the higher the number, the month supply of inventory, the more control the buyers have in the market. You know, and it's interesting. I've been in both, been in this business for 33 years. So it's kind of interesting. Both of them bring their own sources of opportunities and their own sources of stress, which is another class in itself right there. But there's things that you need to understand with each market so that you can prepare your clients for what is to come, so that they behave intelligently to help them get what they want, and not behave in a way that's not going to be helpful in helping them get what they want. Notice I said help them get what they want, not help them get what you want. There's a difference sometimes. Okay, short sales in Pinellas. Only 3 active right now. 6 sold in January. They took an average of 125 days to get from contract to closing, and a half month supply of inventory. Again, with such a low sample size, the numbers are going to be all over the place. Now, here's the numbers that we want to study more carefully, and here we go. Active inventory in Pinellas, non-distressed only, 2,096. In December, it was 2,523. So just from December to January, we lost 427 listings active. So that's a 16.9% loss. January of last year, there were 4,311 listings. So we lost 2,215 active listings, or 51.4%. And I went back another year just to see. In January of 19, there were 5,900 according to my numbers, which is a 64.5% drop since January of 19. At the same time, look at the sales numbers for January. January 20 last year, 1,378. This year, 1,639. So with 2,215 less listings, there was 261 more sales. That's the definition of a market getting stronger for sellers. Because what you'll notice is the absorption rate is increasing and the month supply is dropping. So sales went up by 18.9% last year. January 19, sales went up 34.3%. So in 19, the absorption rate was 20.7%, or a 4.8 month supply of inventory. That's a seller's market still, but very close to a balanced market. In January of 20 last year, 32% absorption rate, or a 3.1 month supply of inventory. Again, a little stronger for sellers. In December, it was an 84.5% absorption rate, or a 1.2 month supply of inventory. And last month, it was a 1.3 month supply of inventory. One of the strongest sellers markets in history. Okay, now I just started doing this a few months back. I just want to track and see what the actual number of total actives month over month. And I did pulled this data on February the 8th. So when I pulled the data last month, there was 2,544 listings. When I pulled it February 8th, there was 2,112. And this combines REO, short sale, and non-distress auctions too. But if you look in Pinellas County, this is the first month in Pinellas County where pendings outnumber actives. Okay, you see, even in last month, there was more actives than there were pendings, 2544 to 2525. This month, there's over 3,070, there's 3,079 pendings in the MLS. So February and March should be pretty strong, huh? 2151 sold. That's January. That's December to January. January is always low on the totem pole for actual number of transactions. But what the numbers will reveal is this is the strongest January we've had in the last 6 years, as far as the number, probably ever, 1,661. With the lowest amount of inventory in January, we've had the highest amount of sales in January, which is mind-boggling. Okay, Pasco. 13 active REOs, 13 sold. Similar to December, little drop in actives and sales. The list to sales price ratio for those 13 solds was 100%. 1 equals 100%. So that means those 13 sold on an average of at list price. The absorption rate was 100% because the same number of actives, same number of property active and sold. That equals a 1 month supply of inventory. Again, what kind of market? Very strong for sellers. Short sales. Again, only 2 active short sales in Pasco, 3 sold last month. Only took 50 days to get from contract to closing. That's almost like a normal closing, but there was only 3 of them. 150% absorption rate because there were more sold than the actives. That leads to less than a month supply of inventory, a 0.7 month supply of inventory. And non-distressed in Pasco. Again, the lowest amount of inventory that we've seen, 929 active listings as of a few days back. Down 207 listings from December, down 1,549 listings from last January. It's a 62.5% drop and a 69.8% drop since January of 2019. Meanwhile, with 1,549 less listings, there were 211 more sales. So a 62.5% drop in active inventory, but a 26.7% increase in number of sales with 1,000. And the non-distressed properties average selling at 98% of list price. So if you look at the absorption rates, again, there it is. Absorption rates, January 2 years ago, 24, January last year, 31. Now it's over 100%. With non-distressed property, there was more properties that sold in January than were active. And that's going to start happening with, if the pace still goes with putting new listings on the market slowly. I mean, pendings are more than actives right now. So that would lead you to believe that if inventory doesn't pick up the pace coming on the market, then solds will be higher than actives, which means less than a 1 month supply of inventory. I've never seen a 0.9 month supply of inventory in non-distressed. Powerful. So it's the best time in history to sell. And it's also the best time in history to buy because interest rates have never been lower. Next page. Hillsborough. No, Pasco. Okay, here we go. Again, look at the active inventory right now as compared to pendings. It's more than double the number of properties that are pending than are active right now. So that bodes well for February and March as far as closings are concerned. Okay, moving forward. Hillsborough. 27 REOs active right now, 16 sold. They sold at an average of 101% of list price. The absorption rate went up to 59.3%, and that equals a 1.7 month supply of inventory. Short sales in Hillsborough. 15 actives, 9 sold, took 95 days to get from contract to closing. 1.7 month supply of inventory, 60% absorption. Okay, and again, the non-distressed story in Hillsborough is very similar. Inventory dropped by 386 listings just since December. Over the last year, we've dropped by 2,773 listings, or almost 61%. And since January of 19, we've dropped 68.4%, almost 4,000 active listing difference. But yet sales have gone up. I mean, even if you go, look at the number of sales back in January of 19. With 5,661 listings, there was only 1,389 sales. But this year, with only 1,790 active listings, there were 1,857. So again, the sold numbers are higher than the active numbers currently. So that means less than a 1 month supply again. Sales are up by 17% last year, up by over 30, almost 34% 2 years ago. Even the non-distressed are selling at 99% of list price on average. Okay. And you can see the climbing absorption rates, and you can see the shrinking month supply of inventory. Although the month supply did go up from a less than 1 month supply to a 1 month supply from December to January. But these are still record-breaking months selling wise. You know, we're having the most number of sales for that particular month, pretty much every month in the last 6 months, and the lowest amount of inventory that there's been in those counties. And in Hillsborough, again, look at this. Next page. Look at how the pendings outrank the actives. It means, it just means what everybody's telling us, that you've been experiencing yourself. Anything that hits the market is under contract. And if it's not, it's probably price related. Does that make sense? 3,930 pending properties, and more solds than actives. Okay, any thoughts or ahas?
Gotta find the listings.
Yeah. What's a good way to find listings besides what everybody else does? FSBOs, expireds, withdrawals, call your database.
Well, for me, I know I have sellers that they're not like ready to list yet because they don't know where they're going to buy. So I've got to come up with a compelling response to that.
Let's talk about that. What are some, has anybody else, I'm sure everybody's dealing with that in some way or other. Anybody come up with a compelling way that's worked for them?
I get the listing agreement signed with a waiver of MLS, you know, with a target date. And if we don't hit it, then we make it active and then TOM until we find something and they're under contract, then we put their house on the market. I don't know that there's any other way to do it in this market, honestly. I haven't found a better way, I guess.
Well, that's a legitimate concern of most sellers that are moving up or moving down, right?
I just tell them to, I'm pretty transparent with them and just say, look, we know your house is going to sell fast. We're going to get a win by finding you your next house you love. So let's just focus on that. That's going to be our main priority. And you're going to have some other stuff going on at the same time. You know, as they're prepping their house, they don't realize they're going to have a lot going on, but we get them focused on where they're going.
Right.
It's easier to keep them excited, you know, if they find a house they love.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could see that new construction would be great in that situation because they could maybe put a deposit down on something and then we have a timeline. as to, when that's going to be ready, but it's just location of the new construction that's been a challenge, especially for our Pinellas County lovers, who don't want to leave the county. And then I've also been talking to sellers about, that they are in the driver's seat. So just because they take an offer doesn't mean they have to close in 30 days. If they need 60 days or 90 days to close, then we can always ask for that in the negotiation of the sale contract.
Yeah, I mean, there's a dilemma that sellers face that want to move up and buy is, do they actually need to sell their house to buy their next home? Right? Now, granted, some sellers may be more willing to, because the market's so fast, they might be more willing to take a contingency on the sale of a house buyer than they would historically. But, with the seller, wouldn't they be able to negotiate a better opportunity if they already had their house sold and under contract? So the question is, even if you found a house you wanted to buy, would you have the capacity to buy it without selling your home? Wouldn't it be better to have your house already under contract? And let's, like you said, you can even write a contingency in the contract and try to get as long as you can, 30 days for the seller to find a house, and the buyer will wait 30 days. Contingent upon the seller finding a house that's suitable for them to purchase within 30 days. Try to get 30 days. If other agent won't allow it, whatever timeline that you can get, although that can get very frustrating. What are some other ideas? The issue is finding the buyer their next home before they put their house on the market. How much more inventory would we have in this market if we were able to solve that problem?
Yeah, I think that is the big part of the problem.
Well, in the old days, it was guarantee the sale of their house, because we used to do it. Guarantee the sale of their house so they can be a real buyer. Our guaranteed sale program, we guarantee the sale of their house and then have it on the market for 90 days. And if we couldn't sell it for a higher price, equal to or higher price for them to another buyer, then we'd buy that house so they could buy their next one. Okay. But now that's not the problem. The problem is not selling their house. The problem is finding them the other one. But that's also a problem with them finding another one, because if they already had a contract on their house, they'd be more flexible in what they were looking to buy, right? So
it's like the chicken and the egg conversation, which
yeah,
comes
there's a dilemma. I mean, we used to just try to take them out to see possibilities. Now you can't take them out to see possibilities. You have to allay their fears that, okay, there'll be something on the market when you sell your house. But we don't know that now. In the old days, we knew that. Now we don't know that. So taking them out, they have to be able to buy it now. And if they don't have a seller that's willing to do a contingency, they might have to pay dearly for that contingency in order to lock it in. And that's the heartbreak that comes with trying to find a house to buy before you sell your own house.
Gary, this is Catherine Sakis. I have an idea, and I don't even know how plausible it is, but I feel like, I shouldn't say I feel like, I know that people that have a home to sell that have to be contingent on the sale or the close of their home are in a distinct disadvantage in this market.
Well, yeah.
It's almost punitive because they're looked at last.
Yep.
And I think the issue would be solved because I've been in this conversation many times, because the seller will be saying, and when I'm the seller agent, I'm saying the same thing, but they're risking taking it off the market if their house doesn't close, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We could get back the old active with contract status so that that property would stay active on the internet and continue to get prospects and possibly backups. Then I think it would be easier to sell the contingency concept to another seller. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I felt strongly enough that I wrote Stellar MLS a letter saying that this was punitive to the existing sellers, because now if that seller does take a contingency, to begin with, they're never going to look at you unless you have a contract. But either way, you're like last on the list. It's discriminatory. I used all those buzzwords, and their response was, well, it was abused in the past. Well, so sad, too bad, go after the abusers. So I'm just wondering, a broker like you in your position that has so many agents, if you could band together with a few other big brokers and maybe go to Stellar MLS and get this changed, you know, that it would open a lot of opportunities, not just for us, but for home sellers. I mean, they're definitely punished in the a multiple bid arena when they have a house for sale because that seller has to take his house off the market.
Yeah, well, yeah, unfortunately, yes. And there's a lot of things the MLS rules, just several things MLS wise that have happened through the years that have really infuriated me because I'm basically a seller's agent. And that's one of them, because the seller really can't accept a contingent contract and say their house is still on the market unless you're actively doing it manually.
But that active with contract did it. And like, I can see why they're not going to listen to me. Who am I? But
Yeah.
if you got to have a dozen big brokers with thousands of agents going to them saying, look, this is punitive all around, you know, I don't know if you have a shot of them listening.
Yeah, well, I agree with you. I think that's something that we should consider doing, no question about it. I also don't like the fact that you can't market something as a 3 or 4 bedroom or a 2 or 3 bedroom, you know, and put them both in the MLS, because if you put a 2 bedroom with a den in the MLS, that, you know, I mean, it really limits the opportunities. You know, I'm not saying it's a 3 bedroom. I'm saying it could be a 3 bedroom, you know, but it would get more visibility when people look for 3 bedroom homes, and a 2 plus a den doesn't come up, might miss opportunities, or 4 plus a study or 3 plus a study. You know, there's a lot of things that happened through the years that I don't agree with some of the MLS, but I agree, you know.
But I think it's time to start pushing back on the, you know, a lot of these ridiculous policies. Like I said, it's not just for us to make more sales. It's very punitive to the.
Well, you know, just assuming that everybody's a transaction broker is kind of, you know, you don't represent anybody perspective in our state, and I disagree with that. I am a seller's agent, and we are sellers agents, and we're buyers agents, right? So, and that definitely is something that's not favorable to sellers. I agree with you as far as that's concerned. But that still doesn't solve our problem that we're looking for. Yes, there could be more contingent contracts, and with the right of first refusal contract in there, you get to keep the property on the market. If somebody else comes in and buys, then the buyer has to make a decision on whether they're going to move forward and waive contingencies or not.
But it opens the door. The door is closed to a significant amount of consumers now, because they're being penalized for having a house to sell.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't disagree with you as far as that's concerned. Anybody else have
There's
any?
Also some opportunity. I'm sorry, Gary, there's also some opportunities for those buyers to buy those homes as investment properties and or second homes. Now, it requires a little more as far as down payment goes, but there's some financial opportunities there for them to do that.
You mean instead of selling their home first?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so there might be financially a way that we can, you know, it might make sense for them to take action on it for the price they can get it now instead of waiting. You know, if those people, in other words, we're talking about buyers that can't buy without selling.
I think we need a really awesome solution for temporary housing. Like, we need to build some really awesome resort that people can go stay in for a couple of months so that, you know, we can entice them to say, oh, well, once you sell, we'll move you here for a little bit while we're shopping or something. Like, the temporary housing situation is really, really tough.
Yeah, I think people, if selling is really important to someone, I think that they'll be willing to move twice to sell. I just think in some situations, sellers are not motivated enough. It's not a major priority for them to get out of their house, you know, in some situations. So it's really about uncovering what those sellers need and moving them forward. Okay, let's get to the board data from Pro. Thanks to Denise Bergadamo again. And you can see it, okay? Look at the number of listings for January, 2562 total. And look what it has been. That drop from January of last year is 47% in Pinellas County, 2,268 fewer listings. Number of sales. $1,615, the highest number of sales that we've had in January in the last 6 years. So the lowest amount of inventory and the highest amount of sales. So that's plus 213 sales year over year. That's a 15.2% increase. When you combine all properties, REOs, short sales, and non-distressed, it's about a 1.6 month supply of inventory in Pinellas. The next page, we see the breakdown by active listings in price class on the top and sales by price class at the bottom. Now you can see, we can figure out month supply of inventory and absorption rate. Let's look between 7 and 8 first. How many active listings are there between 7 and 8? 70. How many properties sold between 7 and 8 in January? 29. So the absorption rate is 29 divided by 70.
41.4.
41.4. So the month supply would be what?
2.41.
2.4, right. Now let's look between 6 and 7. How many actives? 97, right? How many sold?
61.
61. 61 divided by 97 gives you the absorption rate.
Like 63%.
Yeah. What's the month supply?
Just under 1.6, 1.59.
So what price point was stronger for sellers in January, between 7 and 8 or between 6 and 7?
6 and 7.
Right. By almost a month supply of inventory, 2.4 versus a 1.6. So if you have a listing that's 7 and a quarter and you're wondering why it's not selling, this data can help them understand that it's a stronger market for sellers below 7 and below than it is above 7. Or if you're on a listing appointment, you can, educate them on what month supply of inventory means. And you use the data to help them self-discover what might be the best price point for them to compete in, especially if their goal is to get it sold in 30 days. Also look at the total number of sales. Between 7 and 8, there was 29 last month. Between 6 and 7, there was 61. So more than twice the number of sales and activity in that difference of $100,000 or $2, 700,000 versus $699, $999. Ahas, thoughts? See how data can help you? Okay, next page. And there's the graph. The big mouth is it's a buyer's market. The small mouth is a seller's market. You can see that it's almost, the mouth is closing as the market becomes tighter. Okay, next page. And here we go, Pasco County. And you can see inventory, the lowest levels ever, and definitely the lowest levels in January, while sales are at the highest levels in January ever. So the numbers are, sales are up by 18.9% or 155 sales, while listings are down by 57.4% or 1,619 fewer listings. The month supply overall, based on those numbers, is 1.2 month supply. Okay, and just like we did with Pinellas, you can do the same with Pasco. What Jake Yacarelli does is he calculates it for every price point in all 3 counties. So he has that data with him on no matter what appointment he goes on. And the numbers can be revealing, and they can help you help a seller how do you overcome emotion? Do sellers react emotionally? Do buyers react emotionally? The only way I know it is with fact, data, and logic. So data can help people understand what's going on in the market, and they appreciate it. And of course, the graph is on the next page, and you'll see again. A closed mouth. And on the last couple of pages, Hillsborough County. Yeah, 2292, that's the lowest number on that page of history for 5 years. And on sales at the bottom, 1798 is the biggest January number. And again, a month supply of 1.2. And you got the same opportunity with the price points. Really, supply and demand is something that you can use this to rely on supply and demand, but you really should be doing your own supply and demand analysis for whatever property you're going to be doing a CMA on. Do a CMA and a supply and demand analysis. Supply and demand analysis, CMA is more confined to their neighborhood, like an appraiser would, to try to pin down the value of the property. Meanwhile, a supply and demand analysis shows how they would stack up against competition in the general area, because they're not competing with just homes in their neighborhood. They're competing with all the homes in the price point they choose to compete in. So you might want to learn more about how to do a supply and demand customized for each seller. Does that make sense? Okay, give me a couple of ahas and we'll call it an afternoon. Not aha.
Having the data available with you, all counties, all prices. That's a good little nugget.
Good. Thank you. What else? Anybody else? Any ahas, any thoughts? Questions? What are my thoughts regarding forbearance and short sales and foreclosures? I don't believe it's going to have a huge impact. I don't believe we're going to get a glut of foreclosures on the market. There may be a little bit of a spike, but I don't think it's going to have any consequence like what happened before. So that's my thoughts. I'm not alarmed about it. Everything that I read about it indicates that while some people are going through difficult times and it's unfortunate, I believe that a lot of people have enough equity where they will, even if they can't catch up, they will be able to sell their house and have equity to gain from the sale of their house. So that's how I believe you might be able to help them. Hopefully that answers your question. Any other questions in there, Tamara, that I need to deal with? Because I've not been looking at that. I just caught that one.
No, there actually hasn't been. You're good.
Okay.
Can I ask a favor?
Sure.
From my peers? I wrote my book and I'm really trying to get to that magic number on Amazon of 50 reviews. And you might have already heard it again, but your purchase and review would mean a lot to me. I'm short 38 for the month of February. So anybody that can help, I'd appreciate it. Sorry.
Let's back Katrina up. It's a great book. It's got a lot of information about relationships. There you go.
This. And I do talk about in that last chapter what you mentioned earlier about the net worth of a homeowner versus a renter.
Yeah, beautiful.
And it talks about my two-year millionaire plan. Anyway, there's a lot of nuggets in there.
A 2-year millionaire plan for building equity up to accumulating real estate or through selling real estate.
Yeah, I talk about how basically buying a property every couple of years, like if you just start small, even a multifamily would be amazing. And then you moved up every 2 years and kept the properties that you bought instead of selling.
Right.
And you did that for like 5 times. You'd have $1 million in net worth just in real estate.
Yeah, and I think that's where it's all about. I mean, you're gonna build a practice that's really gonna be powerful if you can help them build their wealth through real estate. I mean, one of the stories that was most powerful to me from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book was Christina Rodriguez out of California, who only manages a database of 300 people. And she has standards under which they can be in that database. Everybody in that database has to agree to purchase one investment property from her every year. And she lives in California where the average price is, you know, a lot higher. So that's a pretty simple business plan for selling 300 properties a year, right? So we just, if you deal transactionally, it's tough to keep high numbers going. You know, you have to deal in selling relationships and, you know, I mean, give gifts like the Hold book, you know, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor book to your buyers and sellers at closing. Ask them about building their wealth through real estate, because the second to 10th sale is so much easier than the first. And what you're talking about, Katrina, is adding value to people by helping them build their wealth through real estate. And that's powerful. Good stuff. Help Katrina out, help yourself out. You'll make money from implementing what she's teaching in the book. Anybody else? All right, thank you for your time, guys. Love you all. Have a great month. Go Bucks.
Thank you, Gary.
Take care of your significant other Sunday.
Take care. All right. Happy Valentine's Day.
Thanks, Gary.
Thanks, Tamara. You're the best.
You are, Tamara.